evening, Wastelanders! This is your friendly SkyBolt impersonator. You can tell I'm impersonating SkyBolt because I've deepened my voice, somehow added an echo, and I'm stretching my words so long that you could make the podcast 3 hours just by listening to this sentence. There we go, that's my SkyBolt impersonation.
And you told me not to be salty. That sounded like saltiness right there.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as saltiness. I've been listening to old episodes, and that's, you have a very specific form of saying, good evening!
Yeah, it's like it's a trademark now.
It is. For the very first time in Stable Talk history, we're doing this when it's 8 o'clock at night for me rather than 4 in the morning. Huzzah!
Yeah, it makes things hard when we live on almost like the opposite quadrants of the world.
Oh, God. Next time we need to try do it with someone in America, someone in South Africa, and someone in Australia.
Yeah, an Australian is the last person we need to close the loop.
Do we have any Australians in Stable-Tec?
I don't know. My occasional collaboration with L-Train, he's Australian, but I'm not sure, he'd have no reason to come on here. Plus, he doesn't like talking to people.
Come on.
Why would he not like talking to people? People are wonderful. We're people.
No, I guess I don't mean that. What I'm saying is, it's so strange that I've never actually spoken to him over a Skype call like this. We did all of our moonrise and crap through emails, literally.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Holy shit. So it has been a busy last month for Stable-Tec. Since the last episode of Stable Talk, we have seen the release of Terminal Secrets, 2 episodes of the audiobook, the Amoria album, and God, there was something else, something that people... there was that other series that we did that everyone keeps forgetting about. Confessions?
Yes. More like Consumptions, right?
SkyBolt actually did it. He released Confessions for...
Excuse me, 3.5 hour?
Oh, sorry.
It's 3 hours 40 minutes. That's pretty insane.
Yeah, I had to close the curve, and now we can go back to a standardized length.
Yeah, 21 minutes. I mean, the first episode was 20 minutes, and you somehow got it to 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it was already it's basically following my development as a writer.
Yeah. Actually, you're turning into somber, to be honest.
That's the funny thing. It's almost like Fallout, Equestria stories lend themselves to being long-ass frickin' stories. And I can promise everyone that by the end of Confessions, because there's an end totally planned out, it's going to happen soon enough, it's not even going to be a third of the original, so you don't have to worry about that.
We decided to put SkyBolt's behind the scenes for Confessions at the tail end of the podcast, just because of how much that he will undoubtedly have to say about it. His behind the scenes always they're always lengthy and thick. I'm talking about his behind the scenes now, of course. Confessions of a Wasteland Pony has increased its amount of dick jokes insanely. What we'll be doing just to help you guys sort of navigate is that this time we will actually be adding timestamp links to whenever the subject changes, just to make things a little bit easier for you.
James says that, and then he's going to totally forget to do that until after the podcast releases.
I keep saying that I add shit in post, and then I never do.
Like the image from episode 1 that I still don't remember what it was, and I'm still I want to somehow go back in time and think, what were we all looking at? What the hell was all that about?
Some weird sort of I remember it was Nightmare Fuel, but I don't remember what the fuck it was.
Yeah, it's it must have gotten really repressed right away.
I think it was Thomas the Tank Engine related.
Probably, absolutely.
That generally seems to be good for strong Nightmare Fuel, yeah. But, so, now that everyone sort of had a week to digest the most recent content, which was Verismo. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
So...
I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's Verismo. There's Verismo.
Yeah, whatever anyone wants to call it, to be honest. I have no clue how to pronounce what the words are.
It's a name for an opera or something that is very much based in truth and meaning. And all
I'm pretty sure it's opera. or something about the composer's time, but it's not kind of what I wrote. It kind of works, basically, but it's not actually the definition of Verismo. So, yeah. And also, really weirdly, Equestria Daily put it as a Moria by the Balefire Symphony, and it's like, no, sorry, it's not called
We've
that.
given up on trying to communicate like directly with the Equestria Daily site. We're just glad that they still post our stuff instead of, you know,
Yeah, I did feel a bit gone on that post. It was just kind of like, oh wow, look at this awesome music. Oh, and also they made some stuff. Yeah, check that out too if you want. Yeah, and it was just like, oh, thanks.
That's always how they treat it.
Okay, so Mr. Kelly, could you tell me why you were completely unaware of the 14/4 time signature that one of our commenters pointed out?
I was actually thinking about that not too long ago. Technically, it's like 14/4 time signature, but like the entire song could be 104 time signature if you just keep adding how many quarter notes there are, right? This is the thing. And also, actually, I think the part he was talking about was actually in 3/4. So I'm really sorry if you're listening to this, but I just, yeah, I don't know. It's like the pernickety music stuff. It's like it just doesn't work, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean. Also, interesting fact actually about time signatures. The entire thing is in 4/4, apart from the intro and the last part of the album. So it's kind of like another tie-in to sort of loop it round. I don't know if anyone actually noticed at the beginning and the end was actually the same, and it just sort of fades in and out. And it's done for very artistic reasons because it's basically like it's like her emotion at the beginning. It's sort of like the same at the end kind of thing. It's sort of like slight sadness, but it's sort of like generally upbeat and happy. So that's why it looped. Just so you know, if anyone actually is interested.
That's what this is for. Go into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you picture Mr. Kelly on, when writing these pieces?
Well, that's like a story and a half. I mean, it's like the first iteration is completely different. I remember like sending you emails. I was like, oh yeah, I wrote this other thing, and it was sort of just writing the songs because they sounded cool. And my dad just kept bugging me, and he was like, oh yeah, so what's the story? What's going to happen next? I'm like, I don't have a fucking clue. There's no story. Like, can you stop like pissing me off? And then eventually he got me, and he was like, well, just write a story. And I was like, holy shit, I could just write an entire story and just make it music. And I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to change everything. And it was like, literally, I was like almost like complete actually. And this was like, I don't know, like quite early on probably from joining Stable-Tec. And then I was just randomly just like, shit, I'm gonna change everything. And I split the final moment, because the final moment was actually one song. Split that into 3, and that's now Hallowed Halls. Demon and the final moment. They're all the same song. The reason being, here we go, more in-depth stuff, is it's basically those 3 are Amoria looking introspectively onto her emotions kind of thing, while the other 2 are kind of outward towards the war. So you've got Ghost Walk, which is the beginning of the war. Then you've got I can't even remember any songs. Downfall, thank you. You got Downfall, which is the end of the song. You know, got the big timpani hits, which are meant to be like the bombs dropping kind of thing. And then interestingly as well, like the final moment, because it's sort of like got that kind of emotional piano in it. That's sort of her at the. It's basically, I imagine that she actually got into a stable, so she would have been got in, and then obviously she's kind of like sad, but she's getting used to her life in the stable again, which is why she then repeats the last part. She's kind of like, okay, this is going well, you know, it's not all about the war, and she kind of gets on with her life, and that's gets kind of like that part of it. But it's pretty much just from the beginning of the war to the end of the war is what Verismo focuses on. I mean, I don't know if anyone like felt like it was like that. I don't know if everyone just kind of went, oh, that's really nice. But yeah, that's kind of like I guess that's like behind the scenes. I mean, there's not like too much I can really show about just like showing like every single thing I wrote and why I wrote it, and that'll probably just take hours upon hours. So
that's what we're here for.
That is literally yeah.
No, it's funny you say that though, because even as like a sort of producer side of things, I actually had a different interpretation of the layout and everything myself. So it's neat hearing like, you know, the compositional side.
Yeah, no, I really want people to see it differently, because it's sort of just like it's not like it's canon or anything, like what I wrote in my head, and it's, everyone can have their own story, because obviously, you can imagine, obviously Amore is meant to be Octavia from the show, and obviously she's probably got a different story within the original Fallout Crasher and then every single side story, but this is like my character sort of thing. It's really weird. I'm trying
to remember. I'm not sure if they mentioned her fate in the original Fallout Equestria. Because Vinyl Scratch ended up in a stable, right?
Yeah, she did.
Didn't she end up in there with her, though?
Maybe? I can only imagine for her that the fate in the stables was similar to Velvet, where it's like, oh, hey, you're the musician. Start cranking out the music there, freaking jukebox.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been really connected to her, which is really weird, and I actually want to write more stories for her. Oh, and just last part of lore kind of thing, but on the last song, the piano kind of messes up very slightly. It kind of sounds slightly off on the notes, and that's because her pianist died basically, and she had to record it herself, kind of thing. That's my reasoning for it. It's like I fucked up the actual writing it into the MIDI. And I was like, actually, that kind of just works, making it play bad, because then it kind of makes it sound like it's her playing it rather than, like a professional pianist or something that's, quantized like hell, and, so...
That's good retcon. I love that kind of crap.
Yeah.
We're going to make this work after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, I worked on that quite a lot. I think there was another song that wasn't even left in there, and it was quite upbeat and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I think the song really works, and I've kind of liked it more as the more other people like it, because it's kind of in my head it's like, oh, this is shit, I'm a terrible composer, kill me, and then someone goes, oh, this is really good, this is the best Fallout Crasher song I've ever heard, and I'm like, oh my god, this is something completely different, I'm good at what I do, no, what? Oh.
The emotional roller coaster of YouTube comment sections.
Yeah, and also I'm surprised no one's disliked it, which is I'm really weirded out.
Yeah, usually you have that handful of people that are the haters.
Yeah. I was tempted to dislike it just so someone disliked it.
To break the mold.
Yeah, it just felt wrong. It's like, no, not this many people should like what I make. It's like, no, stop it. But yeah, so I think that's all I could really say on it, to be honest. That's the main points, I guess.
I'm just glad we could really get this thing out there, because an Amoria sort of little album is something I was hoping we could have for a long time, actually. This, again, we'll get into more of this later, but when I started writing Confessions, episode 4, The Engineer, way back in the summer of 2015, after the Fallout trailer came out, I was like, oh man, what would be great to help close the gap is if we had some Amoria music, since episode 3 had to do so much with Amoria, and, DJ Pony making a stupid, oh, you didn't bring me any music, all his bitching. And so, right away, I wrote this little part into Confessions 4 about, oh, you got to bring me Amoria music, Rose. And, and then just after perfect, serendipity or whatever that we were, James applied for the studio, and I think you had, an early version of Ghost Walk and the Hallowed Halls, super compilation.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, that's a good point, because I think I applied with some really early music. I mean, I only started properly composing since Christmas, and obviously I joined in April or something like that. And from that time, I think I wrote 1 or 2 songs, and then mixed one song, and I was like, yeah, I'm really good, let me in, kind of thing. And then you were like, yeah, you can only do this kind of genre, and I was like, oh, shit. And I was one of the options was I think it was Wayne that said it, and he was like, you can only do it was big band, jazz, and cello lead, and I was like, shit, I am so fucking screwed. I have no chance to do this. I was doing big band, and it sounded absolutely terrible. And then eventually went, oh yeah, cello lead. I did actually make a song with orchestral stuff, and actually I had no ideas for the song. So I looked up the song, just typed in cello lead, and it was one by, I can't remember who it is, but it's basically just a piano and a cello. And I actually copied them. Like, the first note is exactly the first note of that song. Because I was just so stumped on, like, ideas. And then, like, eventually got into it, and I was like, oh, that's good. Then I was like, oh, I'll make a Fallout one. It's a bit darker, which is why the Ghost Walk has all, like, the atmospheric stuff. That's why it starts off with that. And then send that in, and you were like, oh, this is really good. We can make an EP with this. And I was like, ooh, yay, I'm in.
Yeah, because even besides the whole canon, of canonicity of everything, the sort of root idea behind all this is the what was her name? I think it's Agatha, the Agatha violin station from
yes.
episode.
Well, you've got to go get you've got to go get her violin.
Yeah, her Stradivarius that she somehow maintained after freaking 200 years in the Great War, that there's still a Stradivarius alive. And so I thought that would be neat, like, sort of like, not that there was a competing other station per se, but that DJ Pony also got himself a hold of, like, this very classical sort of, like, repertoire to break things up between all the great big band songs and stuff, because it's like, music is music, and he's got one of the only stations out there. Especially with Downfall, which is my personal favorite, because I love how the synth just starts creeping into the song. I love that, like, just, the approach of it, how you go from the plucking strings, and then suddenly it's like you've got the synth tone. It was so perfect. I just love that.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked I did really like the ending I did with it. I mean, I know someone said about that it could be different, or whatever, but I just really disliked it, where it was just sort of like, fuck you, you're thinking your speakers are broken right now, sorry, it's actually just me. And then you've got like the wind just picking up and almost distorting. I just really love that, because I pictured this it's just this brown muddy battlefield with like a mountain in like the background kind of, and that's what I could picture, especially with like the rain coming down. I could just imagine that. And then when the timpani hits come in, you've got that huge just, the bombs dropping kind of thing. And then when the, it starts glitching out, it's almost like it's panning out to a radio that's actually just looking at from like a radio station or something, from the SP thingy hub or whatever what it is.
The SPP tower,
that's where I could imagine. Yeah. And that's where I could really imagine that. And I was like, okay. And everything's just, then drops, and then it's all broken. And it starts out with that nice piano, and now she's underground, and it kind of like changed the story. And I was like imagining like so much when I was writing it. It was just, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed writing it.
And the way it cuts out too, for me, I pictured it as like a, whatchamacallit, I almost said electronic voice phenomenon. Freaking, electronic pulse, Like Second Revolution, where that's what happens with nuclear bomb. The first thing that hits is an EMP. That's it. The first thing that hits is an EMP. All the power shuts down. So that's like, and then after that goes out, then you feel the wave and the death. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just really happy that people like it. To be honest, I mean, it's just it's weird. It's really weird to be like, last year I was doing my GCSEs, being antisocial and just revising, and then next year I've got people saying that they really like my music, and it's just like, shit, dude. I'm 17. It's quite impressive, if you ask me.
And we should probably also thank Dark Sittich for providing the art. I gave him like a few notes for what I thought would be really good, and that he just really went with it, and brought in that great Amoria Octavia artwork.
Yeah, I fucking love the artwork. Like it's still my desktop at the moment, because it is just obviously like with like the music, and obviously imagining this character that gets stuck in your head, and then all of a sudden she's like just there in the flesh almost, even though it's a picture, like a drawing, and it was just it just kind of like made it real, and it was just so well done as well. And obviously it's obviously focus on it, it's in the spotlight, it's all good and happy and well done, and then outside of it everything's degraded, and obviously she's fading away, kind of like she's dead, and then that I loved as well. I was like, oh, that's really cool as well. It's like, you can actually look at the image while the music's going, rather than it's just there in the background kind of thing. No, I was blown away by the artwork. It's so cool.
Yes, so thank you, Dark Sittich, for doing that for us.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Mr. Kelly, I brought this up once or twice in the Stable-Tec chats, and I think it's very important that we discuss this matter here on Stable Talk. You're fired. You're fired on the ground. You're fired because of hot fuzz logic. You're making us all look bad.
I will take my leave, but I was actually thinking about that. But obviously, not many people are going to look at the description, so technically it's just Stable-Tec as a whole did this. So, if you look at it from that,
yeah, but
Stable-Tec has done very, very well.
You just spoke for 20 minutes on your behind-the-scenes process of this.
Yeah.
That was great. That's the beauty of the Balefire Symphony. Everyone's in the symphony.
Everyone's in the symphony. I'm in the symphony. You can hear me in the background playing the triangle.
Actually, you might have been in the symphony. This is going back to our last confession pseudo tie-in song. The whatchamajigger.
We are okay. Cool. So we're back. We had a slight technical malfunction, and there's going to be a slight change in the audio quality. So that's just an explanation for you. We last left off where SkyBolt was talking about a thingamajigger from the previous confessions episode with regards to Amoria. Those were his exact words.
Oh yeah, so we were talking about, James mentioned, he's like, oh, I'm part of Balefire Symphony too. And I was saying, like, in a way, almost everyone in the studio has been a part of it because previous Confessions episode, The Duchess Horror, had a great accompanying piece called The Horror of Maricello, which in strictest terms is the title of the creepy organ track that one of our main characters from the Duchess Horror plays during the story. And so that pipe organ piece ends with a very scary, spooky skeleton scene. And that includes lots of voices where I basically emailed the entire studio and I'm like, send me, your scary voices. And I had a few demos, which are also inside the track. And yeah, so those are all mixed in. Because I believe as it was described, it sounded like the dying cries of 1,000 different creatures or something. So I did then try to recapture that myself. I'm like, why the hell did I write it this way? Freaking hell. So let's do this. And of course, 100 creatures is actually more like, or 1,000 creatures is actually more like 24. But yeah.
It sounded good. It was
just
terrifying when it came out.
It's like Game of Thrones, where the original throne is thousands of swords, and then the final thing is 200.
Or how on the show you see the massive crowds of people, and when I found this out talking to Mohan, the head of our writing team, who was an extra on Game of Thrones during season 1, how small the
was he really?
They had there.
I want to hear that story. I forgot he's a North Irish fuck. Oh man.
Yeah, no, we need. I've been wanting to get Mohan on the podcast for a while, but the problem is that he's only available during the week, in the middle of the day.
Sure.
Which is physically impossible for every single one of us, aside from him. So that's a slight problem. We're gonna have to try and make a plan with that. Because he's always great to have on the podcast, because he's got the soothing North Irish accent.
He has a great accent. I really wish I could do that.
Do what?
Do the accent like that. I can't do that. Not yet, anyway.
It's the only accent that I can vaguely do.
Yeah.
Because
for my own purposes, at least, I needed to go so far as to create my own interpretation of frickin' Aidan Gillen for future thingies that I would ever want to do. Because I was listening to, they did an audiobook of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and it's frickin' Aidan Gillen reading it in his little finger voice, and it's so wonderful.
Alright, so
back to ponies.
Okay, so Mr. Kelly, are we about finished up on your side? Are you finished
Yes.
off with your amazing...
Yeah, caused me to get fired from Stable-Tec Studios.
Absolutely. No, definitely more to come. Hopefully, we'll see what happens.
That's going to be put on my tombstone. Actually, I make music that's so good I get kicked out of things.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard that yet, go and check out Verismo by Amoria, the Balefire Symphony, on the Stable-Tec channel.
Yeah.
This one right here that you're listening to.
And then, before we move on to Terminal Secrets, I would just like to take a small interlude. Guys, have you ever played $1 Million Butt?
No, I don't think so. I've heard of it, I think.
You guys get $1 million, but every time someone asks you if they can borrow money, you puke on them. Not anyone else, specifically on them.
Oh, I would
That's
take
like
it.
Stan.
I would take it. No one asked me for money, so I'm alright.
No, but see, you now have $1 million. People would be asking you for money all the time.
Oh, shit. Oh, that's a good fucking point. Oh, shit. No, I would still take it. Alright, I would just, like, pretend to change my name or something, or, like, just... I don't know, it wouldn't be too bad, because you could just warn them, like, oh yeah, I'm about to throw up on you, so don't ask for money, and they'll be like, alright, sorry, yeah, shit. And they'll back off, you know. It's worse for them than it is for me.
I don't know, I mean...
I feel like that's a perfect way to react to someone asking you for money. You just throw up on them and they go away.
the most spontaneous possible thing. Hey, hey, Kelly, I'm like $1 short. Or no, you're in England. Sorry, I'm £1 short for. I'm £1 short for this dollar. Could you spot me some? But what if your mom wants some cash?
Yeah, it's gonna be bad if it's family members. Imagine like if we were kids and then they're like, oh, I'm really, I'm not doing very well. Can you really help me out? And then it's like, oh, sorry, I'm about to throw up on you. You know, I can't.
That's perfect. It's like you have that one worthless nephew that hasn't like done, hasn't done anything with his life. He's like, hey man, can I borrow some money?
Yeah, I'll definitely take the $1 million. It is worth it. It is worth it.
Absolutely.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
worth it. I mean, you just take 20 of those dollars and you make up a T-shirt that says, "If you ask me for money, I will vomit on you."
One more thing, guys. So
One more thing.
yes, you get $1 million, but every time you take a shit, your poop comes alive and it speaks to you.
Is it like Mr. Hanky? Like, how?
Yes, but with no magical powers.
Oh, so you just flush it. You're like, goodbye. Enjoy your new life.
Yeah, exactly. But then it hates it because you're flushing it away. It's gonna be like, fuck you, SkyBolt.
I picture it like the mutants in Futurama, where they're like, oh, this is our home, the sewers of New York.
I would not take $1 million for that.
That would be...
Oh, no.
Yeah, because every single day, it's like, not $1 million, maybe 10 million I'd do that, but not 1 million.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. I mean, like, I mean, you probably have to, like, exterminate, like, the entire toilet every time, just because if there's, like, a smidge of it left, it will be talking to you going, fuck you just killed, like, 90% of my body. It would just be hell.
You know what would be even funnier is if, like, what if the poo drowned? So it's like, as soon as you flush, it's like,
Every fucking time.
No, and you're like, not only that, but you're like murdering your sentient butt children every single time.
Okay. Okay, so
If I was old and life,
I would not take it. That'd
be funny.
Alright, cool. And after that
that's
small
good.
interval, we have teeny tiny interval. Okay, so next up we're going to be doing a quick rundown on Terminal Secrets Episode 2 before we get to Confessions after that. Okay, so who's talking about Terminal Secrets 2, Episode 2 again?
Yeah, we mentioned it a little bit, I think, last time, but let's go in more detail.
Well, we didn't
Yeah,
mention
we
it
can
last
talk about
time
it.
because
It
we
wasn't
deleted
out.
that. We deleted the previous podcast that we recorded because it cut off early.
You guys were doing it. I was like looking at
We
it.
recorded a massively long podcast that we have to release that in some form.
Yeah, we'll release it eventually, but not
Like
as an
90
official. The problem with that podcast
Like
is
90% of the podcast is me complaining about the DC Extended Universe. So that's what you have to look forward to, people.
yeah, no, that podcast was basically 40 minutes of SkyBolt bitching about Suicide Squad, which he is not allowed to do in this podcast. Terminal Secrets, Episode 2. So, weirdly enough, despite creating and directing the series, I did not write the opening episode. SkyBolt took that. That was a very weird experience for me. But we all agreed that that Dose should open the series since it was a perfect example of something that was completely and utterly fucked up. I mean, good God, man.
Yeah.
But with this one particularly, I really wanted to do something that was that something that had a bit of a noir detective angle, which is where we came with the character for Vienna, which plenty of people have now told me the first thing they think of is not the location Vienna, they think of the sausage.
See, I'm so glad. I thought that was only an American thing. I thought no one else is going to think of this. They're going to think of the city of Vienna, and I'm going to look like an idiot being like, is that like a food? They're like, no, SkyBolt, it's not a food.
I've never heard of Vienna sausages. Like,
that's like the one Germanic country I don't have a tie to either.
So Vienna was not meant to be a food. Vienna was meant to be a place. So she was kind of drawn out from a lot from Jessica Jones and a lot from Veronica Mars, since those were both very fantastic shows. And of course, it's always fun to write about.
Are you saying we're gonna
what?
Have a David Tennant
what? I can't hear you,
brother.
I'm losing you.
At one point.
SkyBolt, I'm losing you.
Point.
Losing the connection.
Can you hear me now?
Talk louder.
Okay, there we go. I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
You're dropping in and out.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I said, okay, you mentioned that she was partially inspired by Jessica Jones, and I said, oh, so is there a David? It's just a dumb joke. Just because I like David Tennant, okay? I'd like to be in all the things.
No, unfortunately, there is not a David Tennant pony.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, that's coming later. That's coming later. Not in Terminal Secrets, in the next thing. Sorry, not the next thing after the next thing. I plan like multiple series ahead when I work.
Oh yeah. No, it's funny. Actually, the few Terminal Secrets things I have written gave me a nice variety to like a break. Like, especially when episode 3 comes out, we'll talk more detail about that. But
exactly.
I wrote that when I was in Vegas on a business trip of all things. So it's like I get back up to my room after talking about freaking boring ass policy about hospitals and engineering and stuff, and then I'd sit down and write this horrible, crazy story that completely makes sense, and I will legitimize everything I wrote after the fact. But yeah, I definitely wrote it in a partial fever trip kind of thing.
It's definitely the most horrific script that we've seen on Terminal Secrets so far. But then again, you guys haven't seen episode 5 yet. Terminal Secrets does start to get a bit trickier to write because of the fact that every single episode is inside a stable. So in the same way that SkyBolt's saying that the Terminal Secrets gave him variety, working on what comes after Terminal Secrets, or what I'm doing next with Stable-Tec gives me a little bit of variety as well, just to write stuff set outside of a stable.
Sweet.
That's the problem, like, because you've got one location to work with every single time.
Yeah, it definitely makes things hard because you don't want to beat on too many similar plot points per se. You want them all to be unique in their own ways, which is what I think the multiple writers helps with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always nice to try and vary things. Usually by the 20-minute marker, you've been able to figure out sort of what the experiment is, and that's what it is for the first few episodes. But then we shift things around in future episodes. The endings don't always happen in the same way. The fact that we've got wildly different episode durations in each episode helps as well. So we're not quite like Confessions, where we're going from 20 minutes to 2 hours. No, 20 minutes to an hour, 10 minutes to 2 hours to almost 4 hours.
Hour 45.
3 hours 45. Sorry, 3 hours 45. No, like the longest episode we'll have will probably be maybe 2.5 hours, and that'll be episode 5. But we're not trying to go for length. And then there's because we're not SkyBolt, who wants to tell us every single detail about their families and their families' families and their families' ancestors and the family cat.
I can get into the details.
Please don't. Please don't.
No cats. It'd only be dogs.
But that reminds me. So I'm proposing a contest for our audience members to do fan art for what they think the final scene of Confessions of a Wasteland Pony will be, because although SkyBolt refuses to tell me, he does constantly joke that it's probably going to be an orgy.
I'm pretty sure you suggested that at first, and I said, no, maybe it'll be a blood orgy instead.
That was it. So we want orgy fan art of Confessions of a Wasteland Pony for all the current characters.
God. I'm expecting nothing but the finest quality stick drawings.
Stick drawings. We will gladly take stick drawings and we'll feature them in the next podcast, but just send them over.
Yeah, any kind of fan art. That would be great.
You could just.
I'm going to draw some stuff now.
Oh gosh.
I'll put a link to our email address if you don't already know what it is in the description, because I really, really want you to do this.
Why did you choose for your episode 2? Why did you want to make a noir story? Why did you have the story within the story sort of character placement of Vienna? Is it like Stephen King, where every character is an author or a writer?
Okay, that helps a little bit. Okay, so I went with the noir story just because I love writing noir. I also wanted to get into that whole. A lot of it was very. I tried to do it very cliche, in the sort of, there's the characters mostly speak in these very long descriptive monologues. I think there's a guard that has that goes on for about 5 minutes, just talking about the first encounter with the stable. But mostly what he's bullshitting about is how cold it is, and actually No, it's not the cold. It's the lack of any form of temperature, which it's kind of weird. Like that should be. I feel like that should have been mentioned in previous descriptions of vaults and stables in the Fallout and Fallout Equestria universes. Because if you think about it, stables and vaults would have a pretty regulated temperature. Like the temperature would never change.
Yeah.
And if you can sort of imagine. You're outside for all your life, and you come inside a stable, and then every single day for months or years, it is the exact same temperature all the time. That's got to drive you insane.
Horrible
monotony. Lighting for day and night, and you just turn off lights rather than having a sun to wake you up. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It'd be weird.
How great would it be if you're bored and your special skill was something like completely outside base? Like, I'm great at making weather, chemicals. It's like, well, what the heck do you do in the stable? Like, you mix the frickin' coolants for the air conditioners?
You'd feel even worse than Little Pip and her cutie mark, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes.
That would be, I don't know, I'd probably...
Cutie mark.
That's what you were good at. You'd probably just commit suicide, wouldn't you? Like, at some point. Honestly, you would, though, because you just feel so shit about yourself. Like, I'm good at something, but no one thinks I'm good at it because they don't know what weather is. They can't appreciate it. It's like, it'd be horrible. Ooh. Especially bottled clouds, like in that MLP episode or whatever, with Zephyr. Whatever his name was.
Like the prankster, like a frickin' Dennis the Menace, where she's just setting off clouds and fogging up hallways all the time. Like, everyone knows it's you. You're the only one that can do this.
So the other thing, I'm sure you guys could probably relate onto this. So, I made Vienna a writer specifically so that I could channel the frustrations of creating into the story. Because there's always there are always those moments where you start the story and it's great. And it's great, but you're still staring at it thinking, what bullshit have I just put out? This is horrible! Which is something I know every writer feels.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think every artist in general, it's like you release your art thing, and then you have horrible regret and disgust.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's that same thing with Vienna and... What was her friend's name? I think was it Clover? It was Clover. Sorry, I can't even remember the character's name. I do that all the time.
I don't know. All your friends have like unpronounceable names.
What? There was only one character with an unpronounceable name, and that was Calistage, which everyone... Which I had to send voice notes to everyone, because you can't really phonetically spell Calistage.
Yeah, I didn't get those voice notes, so I had to basically, guess.
It's like... So throughout the story, you've got Vienna. She every now and then she'll write something, or she'll monologue about something. But then the first thing she does is the nearest person to her is, was it good? But are you sure? No, I can do better. And you've sort of, which is exactly that's exactly what it's like actually. We're working on a one-shot that should be coming out closer towards Christmas, but the problem is it's an Absurdist style story. So it's kind of nonsense, but I'm kind of aiming for that, and I can't tell whether it's shite nonsense or good nonsense.
Okay then.
You should send us the script after this podcast or something, just so we can read it.
Can't send you the script, it's not done.
I'm so interested in seeing what episode 4 is going to be like.
Yeah.
Episode 4 is going to be great. Mohan had a great concept with that, and he's busy working on it now. Just the rest of Terminal Secrets, it's going to get weird, which I'm happy with. When you open up with your character committing genocide, there are really finite directions you can take that in. You
have to really sell like a Rick and Morty line, like, it's gonna get weird!
It's gonna get very, very weird, though.
Currently, you sent me a message like a while ago, and you were asking if I could do some kind of sound thing, like make a song with something. Also, I don't want to spoil it too much, but is that still going to be in there? Because that was weird as fuck.
What did I ask you for?
You wanted a song redone with someone's vocals, like an entire song just with chopping up someone's voice. I think it was that.
Oh yes, I remember that note.
I can't remember that.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to get out the old messages now.
Yep. There's probably text proof somewhere. That's the beauty of the digital age.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a good idea when I had it. I just cannot remember it now.
It was a good idea at the time. That's what I do too with confessions. I have my own Google Doc. I write them all in Google Docs now. I can talk more about that too. But I have one master doc that's like all the outlines and all the like random notes that are just like literally bullet points or like alphabetized. So it's like, point AAA, point, CCC.
Yeah, I found it. Anyways, it opens with a montage sequence of sounds and actions cut in the tune of an Ink Spot song with butterflies singing over it. Can you edit that comfortably?
That
was what you sent me. There you go.
Yeah. I can't explain why we're going to do that, because that's obviously major spoilers, but...
Yeah.
So, what you're saying is you won't make that same mistake again?
I will absolutely make that same mistake again. I don't think we've ever unironically used that song. But anyway, on a final note, before we finish up with the Terminal Secret stuff, I just want to say that I hope you guys enjoyed the last episode of Terminal Secrets, and I really hope you guys enjoyed Vienna, because she's absolutely coming back. Maybe not in Terminal Secrets, but she's coming back in a few other forms, which I'm just so excited to show off to you guys, because it's going to be fantastic. Had so much fun writing her.
One of those forms is a sausage.
Yes, no, she's going to be a sausage. I demand fan art of Vienna standing next to a hot dog, or no, a rad hog.
Be fucking cool.
A Fallout style like Coney Island hot dog stand. You got like a ghoul or a raider behind the desk, and it's like a corn dog, but like halfway up the dog, it's all like mutated and glowing.
Oh.
That sounds delicious. Oh my gosh.
That's it.
All right, and we are now in another gap. And before we move into Confessions of a Wasteland Pony, I just have to ask you guys one question.
Go for it.
Okay, you get $1 million, but your teeth are switched out with fingers.
Oh my gosh, no. No. That sounds, oh my gosh.
Why would you even do that? You just wouldn't be able to, like, chew your food. You just have to, like, have a pipe into your belly button and just directly pump it in.
You can rip your food apart.
That sounds like something I would spend several $1 million to fix. Like, you replace your fingers and then you add fake dentures or something.
Yeah. Good. That would be a good idea, though, for a horrible creature or something in some kind of universe. That would work, because that is creepy.
That is very creepy.
And you could get a really emotional backstory on it, of like this person had a horrible experiment and it wasn't him and he's just ugly to everyone else and he didn't want it. Really a big sob story.
That was going to be in Silent Hills and then it never happened. Oh. Actually, we could have a short segment about that, like real world Fallout news. Should we talk about any of that stuff?
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so, well, the most controversial one right now is that apparently mods are not coming to PS4. Now it's just pretty much outright canceled, and that sucks.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
yes, I saw that. Glad
in a selfish way, I don't really care, because it's obviously I've got the mods, but it is just bullshit. It's just like, it's like there's not really too much reason for not having it. To be honest, I can't really see it for being a bad thing to do, so...
Yeah, I think the Todd Howard explanation is, or like the official company stance is, they're blaming Sony for being too proprietary, and without confirming or denying, I had a PS2 that was, I own a PS3, but I haven't really done anything with it, but I can agree that they can get a bit, like, they have their special Sony memory cards that can't just be, SD cards and all this kind of stuff, so I could kind of see that being a reason, but I feel like more than anything, it's probably a lot of just company, like, battling BS. It's like the same reason that we can't have cross-console play between PlayStation, PC Master Race and Xbox. Because really, there's no excuse outside of people, bitching about, like, microseconds of lag or graphics or whatever. It's like, a casual, I'm pretty much a casual gamer at this point. I just want to play Halo with my friends. And it's like, I can't even do that because everyone's got to have their own Xbox and their own Xbox Live profile and their own copy of Halo, whatever next bullshit game it is. Yeah. And I hate that, because especially... I'm sorry, this is a separate tangent now. Especially Halo started out as a very LAN party-centric game. Like, the first time I played it was this massive Halo 2 release party with, like, 64 people playing, like, 2 games across a buttload of systems. And that was magical. But that's not the way the world is anymore.
I actually remember, so I had a PC version of Halo Combat Evolved. I've still got it. But what me and my mates used to do was we'd all have it installed off, but we all use the same CD in the same CD key. You'd go and you'd open it up. You'd open the game, take out the CD, give it to the next person. He opens the game, takes out the CD, and with the next person, because the game ran fine after without the CD if you just ran it like that. That was before we figured out how to use Daemon Tools. So that was our pre-Daemon Tools version of piracy.
Nice.
We just pass it around the room.
Yeah, because, everything wasn't locked down by all these frickin' DRM things back in the day. It was just, I'm going to buy a game, and I can just buy a game, no problem. But no. Yeah. Now you need special keys.
I've had, like, so many memories of Halo. I mean, it's pretty much like my first game, because obviously, it's been out probably when I was quite young anyway. But, I'll play, the first one with my dad, then... like Halo 3, I'd be playing with tons of friends constantly, and then it came to Halo 4, and it was like, I went round the friend's house, and then it was like, why is this split screen like really shit all of a sudden? And then, Halo 5, then it's just completely gone, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just lost its touch, and it's just sad, it's just...
Yeah,
horrible. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Because I have endless salt about stuff like this. And it's like, with Halo 4 and 5, I don't give a crap about the graphics. Like, they can all have Halo 3 graphics if it means I can play 4-player with my friends. Because now that I'm, like, an adult-ish kind of person, I can buy a TV that's big enough where all the 4 split screen are the same size as my original TV growing up. So it's like, who cares? But obviously, it's... the reason must be, I mean, besides corporations not wanting to play ball, is the fanboys kind of encourage this crap too. You know, it's like, I really don't care about exclusives either. It's like, if every game were available on every system, I'd be fine with that, and vice versa. Because all I ever cared about was just playing with my friends. Like, growing up, I had the friend who was the Sega kid. He had the Genesis and the Dreamcast, and I was the Nintendo kid, so I had the N64 for everyone, 4 players, and then we had our PlayStation friend, and we'd go over to his house and play Crash Bandicoot or Metal Gear, and it's like, those great times, but, you know, now I'm sounding like the freaking 90s guy, like, you remember the 90s?
The 90s were the best.
Kids today, they don't know. So anyway,
there are some really, really great things about the way technology has moved forward today, but I do miss couch co-op. I still get Halo out with my little brother, and we sit down, we play, and I yell orders at him, and he doesn't do them, and we die, and I blame him. But it's just always a ton of fun. I miss that spirit. I try every now and then to get hold of my friends, and we play Quake 3 Arena, which, oh my god, that game still holds up beautifully.
Oh yeah.
That and the last Unreal Tournament that I hadn't played it in a while. I was playing with friends as well, and it's just like, it's still beautiful. It's still fun as hell.
Nice.
Well, I mean, the Xbox Play Anywhere. I mean, that's obviously.
Sorry guys, we had a memory card full, so if the last cut felt weird, that's it's James Kelly's fault.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm gonna get fired for that too.
Yeah, so basically, that's the end of my rant. Was just like, it's really not that hard. It's just like, blame me for the limitations. I'll deal with lag if it's really a problem, which it probably isn't. Honestly, it's like, just drop the graphics a little bit. Let me play 4-player with my friends again without them having to buy all this freaking expensive shit, and we'll be fine. You can keep doing because that's the only problem, is that consoles are trying too much to be like PC, and they're not master race. That's fine. They're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be plug and play.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so with that, we are now going to move on to the final segment, which would be Confessions of a Wasteland Pony, Episode 4. It has finally arrived.
Oh my gosh, after so much delays, which we will now explain. Okay, so, feature segment. This is the story all about how this episode got flip-turned upside down. So just take a minute and listen, because all this started, okay, off the Fresh Prince. All this started over a year ago. So we had the lovely Fallout 4 reveal trailer in beginning of June. It was like June 3rd or whatever. It was amazing, and it was so perfect timing, because literally just a week before we were able to get episode 3, The Duchess Horror, out for the listening public, which I'm still very proud of. I still like that one quite a bit. It's definitely top 3. And yeah, so that came out at the end of May, and then Fallout 4 trailer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Fallout 4 trailer, episode 4, this is going to be fun. So, in classic Confessions fashion, I started writing the script on a plane, because, like, most of the first 3 episodes were written at freaking 35,000 feet, because SkyBolt flew a lot the last 2 years. And so, everything was fine. I got through writing. I spent the whole summer, and then by the end of summer, script was done at like mid-September, like right around now, last year. And we put it out for casting, and that's where the slowdown started to happen. So, first of all, I had to extend casting because a few people were running a little bit late, and they want to get theirs in, so fine. They got that in, and I researched it, and then right around that time when casting started, I found out that I was getting a new job in California, which is what I've been working for anyway. And so I was like, oh crap, I have to move. This is going to slow things down a little bit. I had to move, and then my car literally exploded. Like, my engine block completely failed on me, and I had to get a new car. So that was a lot of stress. And, and so I spent October, I really quickly wrote Terminal Secrets Episode 1, and moved back to California. Woohoo. And then when I got settled in, it was like mid-November and everything, I checked in on the chosen VA, and something had gone wrong apparently with the computer or something failure, so I was like, okay, do your best over the holidays, and I'll check in again in 2 weeks, or whatever. It's always 2 weeks. And, and then after, January and February, there were some problems. The secondary VA, our VA for Homage, she just kind of dropped out. There was problems or something going on, so she just pretty much just dropped out. And so I was like, okay, crap, I gotta replace Homage now. And so that occupied me for 2 or 3 weeks, and got a new Homage, and it's nice of her to fill in. And then after got her, then the main VA for the engineer, the main engineer, female, Amber Horn, also dropped out. And so I was like, okay, now I got to recast the main. So basically, after 6 months, I had nothing. Literally 6 months later, there was no progress. So at the middle of March, recast the main VA, and everything started as from zero from there. That's what the delay was that just I lost all that time on two VAs that they had to quit for different reasons. So brought on the new VA. I sort of retooled things a little bit in the sense her characterization is a little bit different than the original, but still sort of the essential spirit of it maintained. Where the idea is that she is she's an engineer, she's very technical because of her father and her mother, the combined influences of both, but she's also, they're people of the wasteland, where basically the story is inspired, the Five Highways is basically sort of like the American Rust Belt, the big manufacturing center from pre-World War II to the mid-70s, where it was, all cars and machines and the old airplanes in World War II and all that stuff. So those were the, big manufacturing cities. And then the river that connected them was based on our Mississippi River, which is frickin' a third of the country. So yeah, that was the essential setting of the Five Highways, was that it would just be big, empty plains country, and that's based on the Great Plains where buffalo roam and all that crap. So big empty farmland, which would have been mostly bombed the fudge out by the war. Anyway, back to behind the scenes. So yeah, cast the new VA, and so the idea was that they come from this very empty, barren wasteland, even more so than usual, because it was largely inspired by Mad Max, my idea. I fell in love with Fury Road, and so, you have the idea of the slavers, and I thought, this will be the big slaver story. Yeah. Not sure if you guys have any break in commentary. I could just talk nonstop.
No, it's okay. Go, man. Go.
Yeah. So that was the idea. That this would be the big slaver episode, and this is also sort of the startup of all the overarching stories. The first three, they are important, and they all come back into the larger story. But this is the really big inciting action kind of thing where you follow the story. I guess we'll get into kind of spoilers. So I know James Vermont has heard this. I'm not sure about you, Kelly. I'll try not to mention the last kind of big plot stuff.
Yeah, let's let us go about that part organically. Sorry, I mean orgasmically. No, I mean organically.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both. So basically, this covers for the first hour and a half, you're like, what the heck? This isn't even the character who's talking. It's all about her freaking parents and how they met and all this stuff. And then you find out halfway through why that is. And it's for a very important reason of why she hasn't been included in the story yet. And so then it sort of also sets up her as a character, which is, in a way, survivor guilt. That's her entire persona, or her perception of her family's story and things, is that she's the carbon copy. She's the second, the alternate, the sort of like fill in for what purpose like they were supposed to serve, because her family found this big beautiful oasis, military fortress. Not military. It's sort of military, sort of a private company, because now we're really getting into the weeds of East Corp, which is going to be a major player in the Confession story. Which, and because that was hinted at in the Duchess Horror with the East Corp terminals. And basically the idea of that is it's somewhat inspired by IBM, in the sense that, like, they're very heavy into, like, business and, like, industrial commercial level machines, and then they had a handful of, like, commercial level products. So the idea in relation with Duchess Horror is that the oratorios, they went out of their way, and Crescendo got proprietary different computers because he hated Stable-Tec and all those people so much because of their loose affiliation with the Foggy Isles and Manhattanites, Manchesterians, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way,
so
Scott
anyway,
has made an East Corp Facebook page, which we'll link. That I promised him I'd say that.
Yeah, we'll have some fun there, and gonna have a lot of little fakey corporate posts, just dropping little hints of stuff to come. Because every Confessions episode has hints for what's to come. So if you've listened to all of 4, you've already heard a few of the hints for what the next episode is going to be, which is already far into production. So I'm hoping to have episode 5 out soon-ish. And but yeah, it was a total labor of love, because a lot of it is based on my own experience, where Mare Island is a real thing, and it's a real place. That's what probably a lot of people don't realize, is that Mare Island is actually the name of a U.S. Navy shipbuilding yard, the Mare Island Naval Shipyard here in California, that existed for like a big chunk of time and built submarines and did repair work on other stuff too. So that's where that comes from. And just the fact that it was called Mare Island, I chuckled for years about the irony after frickin' becoming a brony and getting so involved with this. And similar kind of purpose too, like the idea of it being on the quote-unquote Mississippi River, the big River 6, is actually inspired by a different American military weapons facility, which is called Rock Island, which is in between Illinois and Iowa, sort of like major Mississippi area. And that's also a big, important piece of, because for them, they're part of the U.S. Materiel Command, which is like building big armor tanks. They did a lot of howitzer work during the war, and actually at Rock Island, there's a museum where you can see one of the atomic Annies, the M65 atomic cannon, which one of the most famous videos of a nuclear warhead going off was fired from an atomic Annie, and it's like, so that's basically where the Mars gun idea came from. It's just this big artillery piece that fires a freaking small nuclear warhead.
Shit, battery on the thing is about to run out.
Okay, what do we do now?
Can you wrap up there, and then we can film the outro, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay, yeah, and so a lot of neat stuff like that I could go into more detail about, like all the little hints of everything. Like in the very ending scene, the end credit scene, there's even there's a part that says 853 960 hertz, and that is a reference to the actual American the two-tone system for the emergency alert system. And it's because DJ Pony frequency, if you know all that about the original Fallout Equestria, that nice little subtle details, all the little things that I really lovingly crafted into the story. So yeah, basically I'm so glad that finally they were able to get those recorded and released, and I'm sorry about the delay. It's literally like, I try to minimize as many cogs as possible as an engineer. The more moving parts you have, the harder things can be, the more often things can break down. And so even though it's mostly me making these stories, just one gear going wrong, one weak link, and the whole thing falls apart. So that's why I lost 6 months. Otherwise, that was supposed to come out in the new year or whenever, and episode 5 after that. But one delay caused another, and hopefully I'm working as hard as I can. Episode 5 and 6 can hopefully come out within the next few months. No promises, but I'm working hard to make that happen.
And that brings us to the end of the amount of time that we have. But we do promise to give you some more behind-the-scenes stuff in Confessions episode 4, either in the next podcast or in perhaps a behind-the-scenes that SkyBolt just uploads to his channel.
Probably, yeah.
Hell, maybe we upload it directly to the Stable-Tec channel and we can...
Yeah, because I did want to do like maybe I'll still do this like a Q&A for Confessions. Now that it's so freaking huge, maybe I'll put up a video like that after this, and then people can ask their questions, and then we'll do a big Q&A.
That sounds like a great idea. All right, cool guys. So that is it. So thank you very much to Mr. James Kelly for talking about his fantastic Amoria album.
Yes.
And thank you to Mr. SkyBolt for talking about Confessions of a Wasteland Pony. And thank you to myself. And we will see you guys on the next episode of the Stable Talk podcast.